having trouble reading because I'm on the way over here. I could have sworn it said Globe Theater sold out.
Well, Mick, I have some advice for you. Put on the reading glasses on your neck right there.
Anyone have the faintest idea why I'm in a tuxedo? I just came over from the WWE Hall of Fame induction, where I was asked about 3 weeks ago, Colt, I got a text message, said, "Hi, is this Mick? It's Stacy Keebler. Would you do me the honor of inducting me into the WWE Hall of Fame?" And I didn't say, "Let me check my schedule." I said, "Yes, I will." And then the juggling process began. So,
including how to get a tuxedo.
Oh man, how to get a tuxedo. The whole time I was backstage, my wife's like, "You look awful. Like, you don't know how to wear." And I'll tell you what, I'm not a lip reader, but I can swear that when I got up there, we're doing the stage now, and all of the it's cool to see all of the WWE superstars and Miz on that stage. Used to be my house snow job, right? It still works better now. But I could have sworn I saw Triple H's lips say, "Is Mick wearing sweatpants?" The answer, my friends, yes I am. And I even covered up the R for Russell on my pants. So I got the tux top, I got the tie, I got the cummerbund, I got the shirt. I'm wearing sweatpants and sneakers.
Take me through the process of you being like, I need a tuxedo, what do I do?
I went to the same place where Double J got his tuxedo, and outside of Nashville, and the guy's going, "Okay, this looks good, we just take a few things in." I was like, "No, I think I'm good." Off the rack, brother. I don't mess around. I can afford to look good. If I start looking too good, I'm going to lose every one of you out there, right? Wait until the heat I get when I finally get my bottom teeth fixed, right? Hush has just come over the room. Hush. They look good.
There they are. I think you should get gold teeth, man.
I don't know. You know who's going to end up doing my work?
Sam Weiss from Libertyville Dental?
No.
That's a plug for my friend. That's actually that.
We got him we got Rip Rogers the dentures, right?
That's right.
It was right, Rip Rogers. One of the great teachers, wrestlers, underheld workers. He was having trouble because he was in a car accident, and the doctor told him, the orthopedic guy said, all of the calcium your body needs is going to go to your hip, and your teeth are going to rot. I've never even heard of that. And sure enough, yeah, Rip's teeth. Are you a dentist?
No.
Okay. So what the heck are you doing questioning me, my friend? I was going to pull rank like, I'm a dentist. I've never heard of that. Well, anyway, Rip's teeth started having a tough time. Colt knew that I was raising some money with some merchandise sales at my shows, and he was like, "Hey, I've got a friend." So the tag team duo, Cabana and Foley. It's not the first time we've been on a stage together, right?
It's the first time.
Going back to what, 2008 or was it 9?
I think 2009.
2009.
We kind of became a little touring act.
Me, you, and Bruce Pritchard. And sometimes it was being Colt, sometimes it was being Bruce. But I'm telling you, they booked it as total extreme comedy, which is not what either one of us do. And we had a sellout the first night at the Improv. And then we saw a lot of crowds kind of like this. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you back to when I did the 20 Years of Hell tour, and in just 20 cities, 20 dates in the U.S. And then I was asked last minute if I could do a show at one of the conventions. I'm trying to think of what show in Chicago. What's the big show?
C2E2?
Not C2E2, the other, Wizard World. Wizard World. So I asked Glenn Jacobs if he would do the Q&A with me. And right before we walk in, given that I've had exactly 1 day to promote this show, he says, "How many people are going to be out there, Nick?" I said, "Could be 500, could be 50, I don't really know." And when we walked through, it wasn't 500. But it wasn't 50, it was about half of 50. And so I always found that a way to jolt myself into an alternate reality would be to go into character as either, mankind preferably. And I remember giving the story, and I'll want me to do a little bit of it. I think I was talking about the time when I was doing the interview with Jim Ross back in 1997, and I was talking about when I was a goalie. I used to be a lacrosse player in high school, and because I was not fleet of foot, I would take my athletic cup out in order to run laps, and I would occasionally forget to put it back in. And there was one day when I paid the ultimate price, and I'm going to take it back. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to put my head down as 2022, 2023, Mick Foley. When I bring it back up, I will transform into 1997 mankind. Jimmy, I went down like I'd been shot. And even though my testicle was the size of a grapefruit, I made it into school that next day. It was the only time I remember girls looking and pointing at my genital area. And for that reason, I considered that night to be the best night in the history of my life. And I looked at the face of one person, and I could kind of read their mind. I said, "You didn't think I was bringing my A game, did you?" So I always bring my A game. One thing about anybody, unless they're called in to become a big star, if they work their way up through the ranks, every one of us will have performed in front of more crowds like this than we will have in front of those packed arenas. And my friends, if you don't bring your A game every night, you don't get noticed and you don't go anywhere. And one of the shames is, one of the sad things is that when I was on the independent scene, when I was wrestling for ECW and wrestling in Japan, I did wrestle every match that was my last match. And then when the crowds start getting big, you start looking out there and you start thinking, ooh, there's a lot of people out here tonight, and there's going to be a lot of people out here tomorrow night. I'd better keep something in reserve. And at that point, when you start being a businessman, you lose something really important. But I'm so glad that I had those moments slugging it out. I've been with Colt on many an independent show. Went to bat for him on several occasions. Under the this might sound crazy, but I was going under the premise that if you get over everywhere you go in the country and the world, there's a good chance you're going to get over in WWE as well. And some people didn't see it that way. Except for Scotty Goldman. Scotty Goldman!
Mick, you were talking about your independent days, and we've done like 2 podcasts before. And I remember the second one, you were like, "You better introduce yourself that I haven't talked about."
You should get bored of the same question.
Yeah, and so I was kind of really thinking, like, you were doing hardcore wrestling, but I was like on the independents, or at least in Japan, the infamous death matches, and I was kind of interested in like when the first time like someone was like, "I'd like you to go through name or warrior," and I understand that like backyard wrestling, I too, like we did some dumb shit, but once you start getting trained, I'm sure Dominic DeNucci wasn't like, "Hey,
this is my boy, it's a barbed wire."
So there has been a point where either it was approached to you or you approached it to somebody else. I was kind of curious when that came to.
Well, first of all, I was always drawn to the wild stuff. So earlier, yesterday, I was doing an interview for some of the upcoming A&E biographies. They were talking about Sergeant Slaughter and how the first hardcore, I guess, Morocco Snuka in '83, July '83, a few months before the famous cell match. It was a pretty hardcore match. But Slaughter and the Iron Sheik from '84 was just outstanding. It was incredible. It wasn't necessarily what they were doing, it was how they were doing it. And I just always felt, when I say attracted, meaning like that was something I wanted to do. So I was given the opportunity, when I started wrestling, to take the things that I like to see and bring them to life with the feeling that if I liked it, some of you would too. One of the beautiful things about a week like this, no longer a weekend, is that there's something for everyone here. So if you're not a WWE fan, there's Impact, right? There's New Japan was right here. And if you like the crazy stuff, they got some of that going on as well. The first time I was given a chance to, I was asked about Japan. Now I've done the Baba tour, which is, you know, really strong style, traditional wrestling. But I'd heard about the Blood and Guts organizations, and I was coming off of 3 years in WCW, so I really wanted to get back there. I never thought WWE was in the cards, so I wasn't looking at doing stuff WWE was not interested in, which would be that wild, hardcore stuff. But then as soon as I heard that Terry Funk, that's Funk with an N, so I'm not dropping F-bombs on any of you, as soon as I heard he had signed with IWA Japan, I made that phone call to Victor Quinones and I was like, I want in. Because Colt, I wanted to prove to the fans and also to myself that I was someone who could draw money. I always felt like, as much as I loved my 3 years in WCW, it felt like just when I was getting the momentum going, that rug would be swept out from underneath me.
So Japan it wasn't until Japan was the first time where you started getting super bloody.
Well, I've been in some bloody endeavors, but this was the first time I had toys to help me in those endeavors. So we had a guy who was worth either between $500 million and $1 billion. He was the owner, based on the real estate market in Tokyo at the time. And he was the guy who invented some of these crazy matches. He was like the mad professor, Mr. Asano. And so the first thumbtack match, that was me. We called it a push-pin misery death match. And I'm sometimes asked, like, well, why didn't you sue Negan since you were using the barbed wire bat in 1995? I'm like, brother, I was like the 11th guy in Japan to use the barbed wire bat. If I'm going to sue Negan, I'm going to have to stand in the back of a long line. Because they like that wild stuff, and they respected it. And that was the difference at the time, is that you didn't have a feeling like people weren't wanting you or, you know, looking down at you. It was considered a really respectable form of wrestling in Japan.
Would you ask somebody about like, oh, does this hurt? Or were there like, besides Terry Funk, who I'm sure, but were there like other guys on the tours that would like give you advice on how to like do hardcore wrestling?
I took to it pretty quickly. Yeah. I had Terry there. I wasn't comfortable with the fire stuff at all. Terry wanted to turn me into a fireman. That didn't work out well for either of us. There's that one crazy match on January 10th, 1995. I look at it realistically, I'm like, people do long stretches in jail for doing what Terry and I did to each other willingly. But if anyone caught the last tour I did, this was always my favorite part of the show, to talk about that match in front of 150 people, talk about bringing your A game. And I remember Tracy Smothers coming up to me. We were hovered over a kerosene heater because the buildings were not heated and it was just slightly above freezing. And he saw the state of mind. And this is right. Sometimes I don't even know, Colt, how I managed to survive, let alone thrive in professional wrestling. Because I didn't have any of that. I didn't have the size, I didn't have the build, but also I didn't have a monster truck. I didn't have a cool hunting dog. I didn't hunt, I didn't fish. To this day, I drive a minivan. As someone might know, female wrestler April Hunter got to know me over the course of a few months, and she looked at me one day and goes, "You're an emo kid in disguise." Maybe so. But that fact notwithstanding, what I said to Tracy Smothers that night in Guma outside of Tokyo will rank among the most badass things you've ever heard. Because when he looked at me, he was Cactus. There's not too many people out there. Promise me you won't do anything crazy. And I looked at him like it was the most absurd request I'd ever heard. I just looked at him and said, "You know I can't do that." That's badass, right? That's badass.
One last thing I did want to talk about, I guess we're here in Los Angeles, a lot of celebrities. I just, at the Ring of Honor show, I just got to meet Sam Richardson from the Detroiters, which made me like a little fan, really, I was so excited. And I know you talked about it in your books, but there's got to be so many just different, I know people look at us as wrestlers on this, so it's like, who do we look up to as wrestlers? And I'm sure there's actors and singers, so many different categories that you probably interact with. I don't know if anyone sparks. But
well, you know, I've talked about Tori Amos,
right.
Until you guys were tired of it, but her music really inspired me. And a lot of people along the way. Some people I've seen in venues, you know, that were no more filled than this, giving their heart out, and I like that. I really like people who are passionate about what they do. I would say the strangest meeting I've ever had is with Beyonce. So I was brought in by the Nets to do something with their mascot, you know, and my back was killing me. I've got like 2.5 quarts of analgesic balm on my lower back just to try to clothesline the mascot. And because I was a VIP, I got to go in the back. And Jay-Z was one of the Nets owners. And if there was ever, I had my oldest son Dewey with me, and he was probably 18 at the time. Jay-Z is the first rapper I've seen to not be a pro wrestling fan. You know what bothers me is I think he was a wrestling fan, and he wouldn't put me over in front of my son. But here's the thing. I know what it's like to be brushed off brutally. I can tell when someone's looking for any reason to get out of that conversation. And Beyonce was totally invested for like the 90 seconds we shared together. So, but she was absolutely every bit as beautiful as you've imagined and seen her.
There. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, did anybody see the Super Bowl this year with Rihanna? Yeah. Did anybody see Bill Goldberg's reaction to Rihanna's performance? Bill was a little angry, right? He thought it was inappropriate. And I was asked what I thought about I was angry at Rihanna, and I thought, no, this is like going back to the Sandman being drunk at a show. You don't get mad at the Sandman for doing what he does and being who he is. You get mad at the promoter who booked him to be who he is. And my thing was like, if you don't want an act that gropes their junk, don't book an act who gropes their junk, whether it's male or female, right? And it brings up, you know what, when I heard about that, I instantly was brought back to a moment in time. This is one of my favorite moments as a wrestler, and the best moment I've ever shared with a true legend in our business, talking about Nature Boy Ric Flair. Woo! You do that pretty well, right? Woo! So I was doing a benefit show for Hurricane Helms back when Hurricane nearly lost his foot many years ago, 7, 8, 9 years ago. So I was doing a benefit show in Charlotte, and out of respect for Rick, he was the first person I called. I figured I'm going to invite Rick, he's going to turn it down. At least I did the respectful thing. And I said, Rick, it's Mick Foley. I'd like to know if you'd like to be my guest at my show for Hurricane Helms. Absolutely, brother. I said, okay. And then Rick not only came to the show, but he lined up media for us in Charlotte, since he's the man in Charlotte, not just the man everywhere else, the man in Charlotte. And right before Rick and I go on, we're supposed to see the winner of a local talent show, who's a 10-year-old kid who has won with his Michael Jackson impression. And I have not worked this out with the sound guy yet, but I'm going to see if he can begin the beat of Billie Jean.
Well, we have Mega Ran here.
Could we do requests up here? Billie Jean, the beat. We'll wait. We'll wait 15 awkward seconds.